Okay, all right. Looks like the stream's up and working here. So, since I couldn't get iMovie to work to edit the video breakdown for Limelight, I thought I'd jump on a live stream and do it live. So this looks like it's working. So this is what we're going to do for today. If you have yet to watch the new music video we put out, we did a cover of Limelight by Rush, and we had Ryan Gentile from Reconsider Paradise come down and play drums on it. He did a really great job. Him, Brandon, and I are all really huge Rush fans, so it was a lot of fun to do this project. So today, I'm going to take you through the session. I'm going to open up the session, and I'm going to break down the song for you. We're going to start at the beginning, and we're going to move all the way through the song, and I'll show you all the fun parts in it, all the nice drum fills, the bass slides, the different guitar parts, and a couple synth pads in there, okay? Let's switch to the other screen here now, and we'll get going here. So this is the session here. This is a copy of the session. As you see, it's called Breakdown. This is the one I made for the breakdown, so we didn't actually change anything in the actual song. So the song opens with a pair of stereo electric guitars. All the guitars on this are played by Brandon. The bass is played by Brandon. The drums are Ryan. The keyboards are me, and then the vocals are Brandon. So the song opens with Brandon on guitar here, and we'll zoom in. So here's what the intro of the song sounds like. Let me make sure the volume's right here. Yeah, okay. So here is the beginning of the song, the guitar intro. Okay, now before the drums come in there, let me point out something that some of you may have caught on your couple listens through this song here. If you listen closely, in those gaps between the guitars there, you can actually hear the click bleeding through. Take a listen. Right there. So that's because we didn't record with an amp on this. We actually recorded with virtual amplifiers inside our DAW here, but we had the speakers cranked here. So the click is coming out the speakers and bleeding through the pickups on Brandon's guitar as he's playing. So that's why you can actually hear the click there. It's subtle, but it's still audible. So that's the guitar intro, and moving on from there, the drums come in next. So I'll solo up the drums here. You can hear the drums enter here. So you can hear there's quite a bit of reverb on the drums, and the reason being is we tried to match the 80s tone as best we could. So there's two sets of reverb going. There's a medium studio verb or a medium room on both the snare and the toms, and then there's this room emulation that I have going on the entire drum set, okay? So that is to give it that bigger, that 80s sound. That's one of the standout things on the drum kit on this particular song. The drums do have quite a bit of reverb on them, so we did our best to emulate that. So here's the intro with everything going into the full band intro, okay? Now you'll notice there is a nice bass slide there. So here's the bass by itself going into that intro. So he plays half of that intro riff before he slides down to land on the one with the drums. So listen to the bass and drums together there. Okay, and that takes us into the full band intro, where this is where the time signatures start changing in the song, okay? So that intro with just the guitars is in 4/4, and coming into this full band intro, we start alternating before 4/4 and 3/4 here, okay? So we have a bar of 4, bar of 3, bar of 4, bar of 3, and so on as we move into the verse, okay? So a nice drum fill will take us into the verse here. So here's what that sounds like. Okay, and the verse is where Brandon's vocals will enter. Actually, before I forget here, we do have a synth pad going in the intro. So this is one of the synth pads I laid in this song. It's one of the smaller elements in this song, but it's something that's it's pretty iconic in the intro here. It's a nice pad element, so take a listen to that. So you can hear it's just a single chord that's modulated. It lands on every bar of 4, and there's just a little bit of modulation going to take it to the next bar of 4, okay? So that about wraps up the intro. That takes us into the verse here. This is where Brandon's vocals enter.
Living on a lighted stage approaches the unreal. For those who think and feel in touch with some reality beyond the gilded cage.
Okay? Now before we talk about the time signatures, let me solo up the vocal here and talk about the vocal tone for a moment. So for this vocal tone, we tried to emulate that kind of 80s Geddy Lee sound. Now we didn't go all the way in on it, because that's not our taste, and that's not modern taste anymore either. But we do have a slap delay going and a larger plate reverb. I'm not sure if a slap delay is what they used. They could have double tracked the vocal on it, but we used a slap delay here to get that kind of doubling effect. So here's the vocal by itself, okay?
Living on a lighted stage approaches the unreal. For those who think and feel in touch with some reality beyond the gilded cage.
Okay, I'll pull up that slap delay and I'll give you an idea of what it could have sounded like if we used more of this slap delay. So this is more of that doubling kind of effect.
Living on a lighted stage approaches the unreal. For those who think and feel in touch with some reality beyond the gilded cage.
So that's something similar to what the record would be more like with that heavier doubling effect, okay? But we did not use something that heavy. So we'll pull that back down to where it was. And then the reverb here is a little bit of a longer reverb. It's a 2-second reverb with the pre-delay pumped up so it doesn't get in the way of the vocal, okay? Now the time signatures in the verse is different than the intro, okay? So coming in from the intro, we're on 3-4. So we've got 2 bars of 3, a bar of 4, then a bar of 2, a bar of 4, bar of 2, bar of 3, and then a bar of 4. And that takes us back into a reintro where the time signatures again alternate between 4 and 3, okay? So here is going into that reintro section.
On the gilded cage.
And again, we have a nice drum fill that takes us into the second verse there. So take a listen to that drum fill Ryan does. Okay, and then we have that roll into that little stab there. So take a listen to that with just the drums and the bass there. Okay, you'll hear that little cut followed by that stab going back in. Okay, Brandon and Ryan did a really nice job lining those up. It's pretty cool. So the second verse, pretty much the same as the first verse. We have the same changing time signatures up there. Guitars are doing the same thing, and pretty much the same thing with the vocal there, okay? So that takes us to this little reintro section going into the chorus, okay? So take a listen to that.
Living in the limelight, the universal dream for those who...
Something I should mention before we get to the chorus here is most of the stops before reintros do not land on the 1, okay? They land on the and of 4, as you can see right here. So here's the 4 beat, here's the 1. It's right smack dab in the middle there. So take a listen to that.
Keep oneself intact.
Okay, and that takes us to the chorus here, okay? Oop, I knew I'd have some issues running the stream and my DAW at the same time. My mouse froze there for a second. So in the chorus, we move from these heavier rhythm guitars to clean guitars, okay? So here are those guitars going into the chorus. So they're pretty dreamy sounding guitars, and we did our best to match the record sound. The record sound has a ton of reverb caked on those clean guitars. So we have guitars, and then I'll show you them without the reverb there before we put the reverb back on. So here's the guitars in the chorus without the reverb on them.
Living in the
So there is a little bit of reverb baked onto the guitars. We recorded with a little bit of reverb on them, and then we added this hall reverb, which I'll show you right here, which is a longer reverb, 3 seconds, to give it that dreamier sound, okay? So take a listen with the reverb one more time. Okay, and this kind of just shows you the artistry of this song. Okay, so Alex Lifeson did such a great job crafting these guitar parts that even when you cake all that reverb on this guitar part, you can still hear all of the individual notes he's playing. It doesn't get muddled, it doesn't get muddy. It's beautifully crafted part. Okay, so that takes us into the next section. But actually, there's something special about the drums here as well. So if we listen to the drums, it's a pretty unique ride pattern going on underneath this part. Okay, so take a listen. So he actually uses the ride to fill in the gaps in the drum parts, okay? So you can see right here, no kick or no snare, no kick or no snare, and he uses the ride to fill in those gaps, and it's pretty special here. So take a listen to how Ryan did that. So that's one of the unique things about this song, the drum part that Neil Peart crafted, and Ryan did a great job replicating that. All right, so that wraps up that first part of the chorus section. Now this will take us into the post-chorus section, or the second part of the chorus here, okay? And on that second part of the chorus, we have a pair of heavy guitars that come in underneath those clean guitars. So here are those heavy guitars by themselves. So you can hear those are pretty heavily compressed. And the reason being is so we can put them lower, but they'll stay even underneath, okay? So those are there to add a little bit of extra weight and a little bit of lift going into this second part of the chorus, okay? So take a listen to those with the clean guitars, okay? So without, with. So they just add that little bit of extra lift and a little bit of edge going into that post-chorus section, okay? So the post-chorus section will take us into a little bit of an end chorus before we hit a re-intro section, okay? So here's that end chorus section. And that takes us back into a verse section. This third verse here is pretty much the same as the first two verses, and that'll take us into a re-intro section where, again, the time signatures, again, alternate between 4 and 3 before we hit the fourth verse. Now, the fourth verse is where these kind of iconic rolls in this song start happening, and Ryan did a really great job on these. It was pretty awesome to see these come together, okay? So here are the drums going into the fourth verse. Okay, so that's the drums on the fourth verse by itself, okay? So take a listen to how that plays in with the entire band going, all right? So here's the full band in that fourth verse with those rolls.
All the world's indeed a stage. We are merely players, performers and betrayers. Each another's audience outside the gilded gate. Living.
And that drum fill right there takes us into the second chorus, okay? It's a pretty cool tom fill there. So here's that tom fill by itself. Now the second chorus here is pretty much the same as the first chorus, and again we have a post-chorus section following it. Now the chorus, the first part of the chorus is in 3/4, and then the second part of that post-chorus section we move back to 4/4. Now that outro part on the chorus, in the first chorus, we do move back to 3/4, but you notice there's not an out chorus part here on the second chorus because we actually move into the guitar solo, and the guitar solo is in 3/4, okay? So we have 1 bar of 4 as the guitar solo starts, and then we move back into 3/4 for the rest of the solo, okay? So listen to the band going into the guitar solo. Now as we move into this guitar solo section, we have the pad coming back in, okay? So here's that pad by itself. So this is actually just a set of octaves with a bunch of reverb again drenched on it. So here's that pad by itself. And then we cranked up that high end to make sure it sticks out in the mix above the solo. So the pad and the guitar solo actually work together to fill the space left by the clean guitars and the chorus guitars. Because if you notice, during the solo, there's no other guitars going. It's just drums, bass, the guitar solo, and this pad. So the pad and the guitar solo have to fill the gap of the clean guitars and the dirty guitars, okay? So here is the guitar solo by itself, and you'll hear there's a bunch of reverb on it, so it creates a big enough space to fill that gap. Now on the original record, they actually used a mountain to get the reverb sound for this solo. We didn't have a mountain available to us, so we just used a larger plate reverb with the size cranked up. So it's actually a 6-second reverb, so it's a pretty long reverb to give us this kind of mountain kind of sound. So here's the guitar solo by itself. So that's kind of one of the defining moments of this song is the guitar solo, Alex Lifeson's guitar solo. And Brandon really did a great job getting this guitar solo down. It sounds very cool, and it really fills in that space there. Okay, so the other part about this solo that's pretty unique is what the drums and the bass are doing underneath, okay? So I'll solo up the drums and the bass here on the second half of this solo for you, okay? So here's the drums and bass. Okay, so you can hear the bass gets pretty complicated there, and those drum fills that really aren't on any sort of time pattern. You can see they kind of start on a 1, but they don't land or end on a 1 either. So it's pretty hard to get these lined up, but Brandon and Ryan did a really great job getting these in there. Okay, so take a listen to that first one again. Listen to how the bass and the drums line up together there. Now you can hear during the solo with the bass soloed up, it's a pretty mean bass sound, all right? We have the treble cranked up quite a bit. That's something that's pretty unique about Rush. When you listen, since they are just a 3-piece, their bass is usually pretty trebly to take up the space, usually filled by other guitar players in a band, okay? And it's something that's pretty cool about Rush. So take a listen to the bass by itself there. So we got that sound by cranking the treble and pushing it pretty hard into a compressor. So you can see we have one EQ, a little bit of mid-range there, a little bit of top end, and then we're pushing it pretty hard into a FET-style compressor, followed again by an EQ, adding a little bit more mid-range, a little bit more top end to get that aggressive trebly sound, okay? So coming out of the solo, we move into this post-chorus, or post-solo section, excuse me, which takes us back into the final chorus, okay? So listen to the end of the solo here. We do have 3 bars of 4 here coming out of the solo before we move back to 3/4 to head into a chorus section. Now, if you notice, when we come back into this chorus section, we actually have the dirty guitars playing that lighter part of the chorus. Okay, so take a listen to that. Okay, and we do still have the pad going as well. So in this final chorus here, we have everything going at once, and that's to give it that lift coming out of the solo. It's supposed to be the most intense part of the song, so we have everything going at once there, okay? So here's that drum fill taking you into the final chorus there.
Living in the limelight, the universal dream for those who wish to see. Those who wish to be must put aside the alienation and get on with the
So that's moving back into that 4/4 section there, which is going to take us into the outro, okay? So we don't move back into 3/4 for a post-chorus section. We actually end the song. We move into an outro here, okay? So we have this long sustaining note held by Brandon, which is going to take us into those pretty awesome drum fills by Ryan there, okay? So listen to this note by Brandon here, and then I'll solo it up for you with the pad here so you can hear how they work together. So we actually found out afterwards, after he recorded his vocals, that it actually lined up with the pad and did something pretty cool. Okay, so as he's coming down from his high note there, the pad is actually moving up. So they're actually moving opposite each other. And it's a nice contrast there. So take a listen to that. And that high note there takes us into the ending with Ryan's drum fills there. Okay, so let me solo up the drums there for you so you can hear these wicked fills he plays. And it's a legendary part of this song. Okay, it's a great ending. Neil Peart crafted such a great drum part, and Ryan did a really great job playing this. Okay, so take a listen to this part. Okay, and that's our drum fills taking us through the ending there. So let me play you that one more time with the entire band, and then we'll talk about these stabs right here, okay? Now, something that Ryan had spot on, which we actually had to edit because we didn't have spot on, was those stabs there at the end. So if you notice, these stabs aren't actually on any particular beats there. They don't line up on the grid because they don't in the actual song, okay? So this first one does land on the one, but you can see that second one's a little behind, a little bit more behind, a little bit more behind, a little bit more behind. This one actually lands on a beat, but it's on a 16th note, which is pretty strange before we land on the 4 here, okay? So Ryan actually had those perfectly down, which is pretty awesome. So after he came and laid down the drums underneath, we edited the bass and the guitar parts to line up with his part since he had those down. So those are those stabs that take us into the ending outro there, those long drum fills there. Okay, so let me play you that as we head out here. So that is it. That is how we did our cover of Limelight by Rush. That's how we created those instruments. Those are the drum fills Ryan's played, the bass sound we got, and the different guitar sounds we got, and the pad sound, and the vocal sound on that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry it had to be a live video since our editing software wasn't working today. I couldn't get that the breakdown edited and uploaded to YouTube. So it was nice to jump on live and do it for you guys. Make sure the live streaming software was still working. I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned. We do have more coming tomorrow. We got a playthrough coming. Hopefully we can get that edited tonight. Hopefully the software starts working. But other than that, we have the playthrough tomorrow. We should have a vlog coming out later this week. And if you haven't checked out the music video, go ahead check out Limelight, our cover of Limelight with Ryan. It was a lot of fun to make. And that about wraps up this stream. Thank you guys so much for watching.